Everyone, welcome. If you'll rise and join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll call our roll. Dr. O'Neill. Present. Mr. Heater.
Present.
Mrs. Barnes Griffin.
Yay, present.
I think Dr. Washburn is on her way. Mr. Irvin. Present. Mr. Webb.
Present.
Okay, thank you all. Dr. Reynolds.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Didn't know if you guys are going to be able to canoe in or not. Plenty of rain today. It was glad today was not the first student day.
Yeah.
We didn't have to deal with it, so that's a good thing. But I'll keep it short tonight. I know we've got a full agenda. Just a couple of updates. Want to remind folks that our first of our quarterly newsletters will be coming out tomorrow to kick off the school year. Lots of terrific information. We send that out through Parent Square, and we'll have that posted on our social media accounts. Check that out. Click on any of those links that might pertain to you, might find useful. Want to celebrate our opening days of school. We had our administrative retreat a couple of weeks ago. Just a wonderful time to get together, review the strategic plan, their individual plans and their buildings, but then also talk about the year ahead and laying the course for that. Then we ended the day with some team building activities, which were wonderful. We had new teacher orientation last week. That went really well. Dr. Bell leads that, and just so proud of all the work she does with our new teachers. That first year, if you're a new teacher in the district or just new to the district, those can be a tough year for people. So she takes a lot of care to prepare those days to make sure they get the information they need to be successful. And then she continues throughout the year with new teacher roundtables. That's not what we call them. New teacher training and PD once a month. Just to give them more support. And folks have, during our process checks, they have mentioned that, and those teachers that might be on emergency permit, kind of the same thing where they have opportunities to come in and meet with Dr. Bell periodically, have just been really powerful. So thank you. But that was a great day. And then our opening day celebration yesterday, where we had all of our faculty and staff together at Central for our opening day, was just a wonderful morning. We try to pass out a lot of information and share updates for the district. We give them updates on our strategic plan and our initiatives and keep it kind of light. And then we end the morning with the celebrations of our persons of the year with the support staff and partner rising stars. So the folks in their first 3 years of teaching, and then our teachers of the year, we were recognized them yesterday morning too. It was just a really nice morning. Mark was able to make it, and it was really good, positive vibe. It was a good morning. So thank you all. Certainly gave you guys a shout out and thank you for all that you do to get us ready for that opening day. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the band. Just right there. So just so proud of the kids and the adults out in the summertime. They work so hard and won all three contests they participated in the prelim contest. They were second in the morning. 5 of the 8 judges had them in first. They won best visual, best color guard, and best percussion in the morning, but ended up second overall in the morning. And then at night, still second at night to Anderson. Very good show, but 3 of the judges had us in first and 3 of them did not. And that was just kind of swayed it. It was that close. So just so proud of the staff, but especially the kids, that, and I told them that at State Fair, it was been easy for them to check out this year. And with the director changes, it's like anything, you can have director or coach changes or program changes like that, and it can kill a program. And those guys they worked so hard all summer, just hungry and ready to come back for another school year. So very proud of the staff that stuck together and the assimilation of the new directors in there. And then our students just embracing that change. So,
I appreciate the real-time updates. It was like, what?
oh
I
man.
could feel the energy through
And
the
it was,
phone.
and it was a great night. The kids, I told you last year, it kind of felt like we left the door open and they came through, but they really brought it at night show at, last, on Friday. They had terrific energy. And when they left the field, they were hollering and screaming and high-fiving. They were super excited because they knew they had a terrific performance. And that's really what it's all about. That's about the only thing you can control. So, just like I said, so impressed with the students. I guess then finally in real time, we had to meet the teacher nights at our elementary schools yesterday and today, and they were packed. The buildings were buzzing, smiling faces everywhere. It was, it's a wonderful time of the year. Everyone's super excited to get back at it, and 90%, few tears in the hallways, of course, right? They're getting back into swing of things, but just a wonderful vibe in the buildings, and just very excited to see our students and parents back and the buildings alive again, full of kids. So I think that is it, President Williams,
Okay.
for me.
3 judges in first place, 3 judges not in first place, right?
That was at night, yes. I'll give you names. One in particular.
One in particular.
You know, what's even remarkable about their success is it's so hot and steamy and they still perform well.
Yep.
Yeah.
With all
It was
our-
a very interesting, it was a little overcast, so it wasn't super hot. We were really pretty thankful for the day. Then it rained just as we were starting to warm up in the morning. And then the rain went away and it got super humid and sticky. We had a couple kids get kind of queasy and parked them in some cars, got them some AC and put some ice packs on them. But then they went out and performed, and they did a fantastic job.
Got miserable fast.
Oh yeah.
When you sent that text in the morning, I was occupied. And I thought, well, I appreciate the fact that you're getting a run in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not a performance run. Yeah, not a run. I did not get a run in that day.
Okay.
I thought that too.
You're like, oh, okay.
It's nice of Chuck to keep me up to date on this.
That is my physical activity.
I appreciate that.
Providing you some encouragement.
Yes, yeah. You got a good run in. How about you?
Well, I was making a living at that moment. Yeah. No, I read the judges' scores, I guess, at about 3 a.m. on Saturday, and it took me back to the 76 Montreal Olympics. I thought it was the Russian judge. They always-
That's right. Should be able to throw out one score.
you throw out the lowest score.
Yeah.
Good
That's right.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we need to fix that. Any questions for Dr. Reynolds? Congratulations, Sylvan. That is great.
You, Chuck.
Great
Well,
work. Anything further?
No, just a comment that been super impressed with the new band instructors.
Good.
Just fit right in. That's what I share. I mean, I was just talking about how, and the kids have just taken to him.
Yep.
So I'm so excited for the upcoming year.
Good.
Quick comment about his son's receiving the scholarship that he did and Gracie Walker.
Yeah.
That is really good stuff.
Future Educator Scholarship.
Yeah.
I think she's majoring in elementary education, and my son's going to do secondary English.
Okay.
Where?
IU East.
Oh, you good. Good. Any additional questions? Okay, we'll proceed. Any public comment? Nobody signed up? Okay. We will proceed to the consent agenda. Any questions concerning the items set forth in the consent agenda? If there are none.
Mrs. Moore, assistant principal.
Mrs. Moore? Come on up and introduce yourself.
Sorry, I was talking to her. I got something.
Tell us about yourself, new assistant principal at Northside Middle School.
Well, good evening, board. I am Ms. Robin Moore. I am the assistant principal of Northside Middle School. Thank you so much for entrusting me that I can do this position. I am glad to be back. I've been away for 4 years now, and to be back is a blessing. I'm not on the highway anymore, so it's a good thing.
So tell us a little bit about your history. Where were you the last 4 years?
I was at Cold Spring School at Marion University as
Okay,
part of IPS.
okay,
We are a robotics school,
okay.
so I spent 4 years there. Prior to that, I was at Sutton and Longfellow, and I started my journey as the piano accompanist at Northside. So
Wow.
full circle.
Wow, well, this feels like a homecoming, right?
Yes, it really does.
Well, thank you. We're so happy that you've joined us. Northside's, they do a great job up there, and we'll look forward to hearing from you all later this year at your presentation to the board. So if you ever need anything, let us know.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Only, I just have the one thing to say, right? So, Ms. Moore was a part of that transition. So when Sutton was closing, our district, where we live, Sanaya was going to have to do her final year of elementary at a new school. So she was going to have to go to Longfellow. So that was a lot of transition, right? And so just to have Ms. Moore, who she had at Sutton, be the face that she had when she transitioned and have that comfort and care. So just thank you for that. And now I told her that she's a junior in college. And so look what you've done. Thank you. Welcome back.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions concerning the items in the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those. Got a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. We will show those approved. We are on to new business. We have compensation and support staff, administrators, teachers, and support staff, I should say. Do we want to take those sequentially, or do you want to do them all, David, in one fell swoop?
I think we will talk through each of them, and then we'll have one motion to
That
approve
works.
each of those three plus the ECA stipends.
That works.
That's okay. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm here representing the Compensation Committee, which was made up of trustees Washburn, Barnes Griffin, and myself, and then Brad and Chuck provided the data, and Mark, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was like,
Katie
did I
was
miss
last year.
something?
Yeah, Katie was last year. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I just looked up and saw you and I thought I remembered. So sorry, age thing. We met a couple of different times, or once, and then had a review of the proposals that are before us tonight. A couple of background issues for us. Obviously, as we look at our most important asset in the district, which are our staff and teachers and administrators, we know that it's really important for us to recognize and compensate that group as best we can. We're looking at a fairly uncertain financial future in terms of funding. And I think we've had a lot of conversations in this meeting, and there's been a lot of conversation around the state about SEA 1 and the impact of those changes on school funding, particularly for us as it impacts us a little bit this year, but starting next year and certainly into the 28 academic year. So that as a background, one of the things we had to do and felt like we have done is balance some of that uncertainty with the importance of recognizing and rewarding the people who are making things happen in our district, which is happening, and we are seeing significant improvement. So the comp proposal is intended to keep pay competitive while balancing that uncertainty for future funding. It is based upon our ability to pay and making sure that we maintain the financial principles that we've adopted now for 9 years and will continue to ensure that we're competitive. We want to make sure that we do recognize achievement. I think all of us would love to pay everybody in the district more, but we have to balance that. And so with that, We have proposals for 4 different groups of people. We'll start. I'm going to take this a little bit out of order, if we may. I'm going to start with teachers. Our teachers for the 26-27 academic year will receive, if a highly effective teacher will receive a $1,500 increase to base pay. An effective teacher will receive $1,000. Minimum teacher pay is proposed to go from $52,000 to $52,500. Last year, our starting teacher pay was in the top 10% in the state of Indiana. We're really proud of that. And this isn't a huge increase, but it is an increase to try to keep pace across the state. We also are going to recognize our Teachers of the Year. Our Teachers of the Year in each building will receive a $1,000 stipend. That is a change this year as proposed. Rather than adding to compensation salary, we are paying the same amount, but it'll be paid on a stipend basis on a one-time basis. And then the District Teacher of the Year will receive an additional $1,000 in stipend. And then all speech, language, and pathology teachers will receive $1,500 increase per semester. That is a challenge for us to get that position in our schools, and will continue, I'm sure, but we believe that will make us competitive. Overall, that increase for teachers equates to about $392,000 on an annual basis. That increase is a 1.8% increase in salaries compared to the 2026 academic year. For our support staff, we're recommending a modest increase to every hourly wage across the board. It is modest, but it does provide some additional compensation to people who are important to our kids. We also are going to continue to pay a retention stipend. Just to remind folks, that stipend is paid 3 times a year for those employees who have stayed with us and are in good standing. That amount has been reduced from $500 to $300 for each stipend payment, and there are 3 stipend payments. But we're thankful to keep staff, and we believe we've had some success with that. And so the proposal, in addition to hourly wage increase, are those stipend payments. Compensation for the support staff totals an estimated $119,000, which is a 1.6% increase over the 25-26 academic year. We also have reviewed extracurricular activity positions and have recommended an increase in a few of those stipends, as well as some positions that we've not had in the past. Those amounts are modest, and help me, Brad, in terms of the total amount for that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. The ECA list that was presented had a few changes, a few modest changes, because we were raising the hourly rate for some tutoring to $16.70 an hour. That was a 20-cent increase. That was a change. If you're looking for the overall total change,
it's very minimal.
It's very minimal. It was only about $11,000.
$11,000. Yes.
Okay. That was primarily due to just adding a couple potential different positions. If we went over 30 for participation on esports, was included, and added an event manager.
Yes.
So that list has been reviewed. And then the third or the fourth group of compensation is for the administrative staff. The administrative staff is recommended to increase a total of $47,000 for the year, which is a 1.2% increase. So as we look at the 3 instructional groups of folks, we have an increase of 1.8% for teachers. We've proposed a 1.6% increase for support staff and a 1.2% increase in administration. So with that, I would make a motion on behalf of the Compensation Committee to approve those recommendations as discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Heater. Any questions for Mr. Jerome or Mr. Heater? Thank you for participating in the comp committee this year. Any questions? It looks like our average salary for faculty is now over 60,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
I pulled that number up a second ago. I think I saw that at 60,619 is our average.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm curious, how many of our teachers have less than, let's say, 10 years or less than 5 years? Do we roughly know?
Well, what I can tell you is 8 years or below, so that means almost like age 30 or below. That's 60% of our teaching staff is 8 years of experience or below, that's pretty much an extraordinarily young group. That's atypical of a normal school district. Usually it's total opposite. Usually you'd have 60% over 25 years of experience.
So out of all of our teachers, we have effective getting $1,000 raise, highly effective $1,500 raise, correct? What's that total number of teachers? Maybe the easier way to say it is, how many of our teachers did not rate of effective or highly effective?
You had obviously you had 20 new teachers participate, going from the 52,000 to 52,500.
Okay.
You had 20 of the new hires we've had this summer. As far as those who did not receive an increase, it was not a big number at all, just a handful.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, looks like, yeah, fewer than a dozen.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Any additional questions?
No, thank you to Chuck and Brad for coming to us in such a conservative manner, right? And so being good stewards of the dollars. And thank you all for listening to us as we encouraged you to think a little broader. And so, yeah, so our teachers are worth it, our staff, all of you are worth it. And I would share that at one point you all were trying to leave yourselves out of that, right? And the teachers and support staff, they can't do it without you all support. And so we felt it was important to compensate you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. So looks like we have a total cost between support staff and teachers of just over 500,000.
Yeah, that's correct. The overall,
558.
yeah, the overall compensation increase is about $558,000.
Does that include administrators?
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Administrators are at 47,
That's correct.
so 1.2% there.
Right.
Support staff's 1.6%, faculty's 1.8%.
Right.
Correct. Okay. And based on our projections for this year, we're comfortable with the numbers.
Yeah, that's correct.
Any
Yes.
any anxiety at all, other than normal?
Other than,
just
I'll-
normal
I'm gonna do
enrollment
I'll do my budget presentation in a few more minutes later, but no, we had no anxiety about the compensation increases that were
Okay.
proposed.
Okay.
These increases represent about 75% in dollars of what we increased last year.
Right.
So that number is smaller. And I think the one thing that we talked about that we don't want to do is get ourselves in a position of raise or no raise. We felt, and I think Chuck and Brad completely supported our questions about, we all would like to do more, but we also, aren't in a position to be panicked to not recognize the success that we're having within the system. You know, we still have work to do. Everybody does. But, you know, we really sincerely appreciate all the effort that's going in to helping our kids be better. And, you know, the fear of 2 years from now, we didn't want to paralyze us and take away some level of appreciation for what's happening. And we may have to make some other adjustments as we move forward for sure. But and Brad, appreciate your work as what Tasha said in evaluating where that, what this number does relative to other options that we have.
Go ahead.
Was gonna just, one thing I think that was really important too, there's been a lot of good things happening at Muncie Community Schools, across the board in all kinds of areas. And one of the things we tried very hard to do was recognize everyone as a team, because the good things wouldn't be happening without the input of the entire team. And so I think that was a real emphasis, was to try to not only do as much as we felt we could responsibly do, but to recognize the efforts of everybody, because it really has been a team effort from faculty, staff, administrators, the whole group. So hopefully that's the message that people receive, because that's what we wanted people to know we felt, is that everybody's been responsible for the good things that are happening.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also the support staff, like, or not the support staff, but the permanent building subs. Like we were like, they don't have necessarily the degree, right? But they are with those kids every day, all day in those buildings. And so we really talked about how do we, accommodate that to a degree. And so, which led us into all of you all, right? Just there's so much that you give, and we want to make sure that we are able to do that for you. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's a real good conversation.
Are we, with this increase, are we meeting the 45% requirement?
Actually, it's now 65%. They add wages and benefits. So yes, we are. Last year, we were over 71% of wages and benefits for teachers. Wages and benefits have to be at least 65% of your state basic grant. So we met that requirement last year, and I would still expect to meet that again this year.
Okay, so it was 45% on salary.
It was. It
Yeah.
used to, you're right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
And
And then they
65.
almost immediately changed it 1 year later to say, now we got to add benefits in there too, because those many districts who didn't make the 45% rule cried, and then they said we have to add the benefits. So,
Well, pretty soon they're going to get to 85%.
yeah.
As long as we keep getting
Yeah.
funding,
Pardon me?
as long as we keep getting increased funding.
Yeah. Well, I went to 85 purposely. It's at least 15.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
So,
I hear you say you're gonna take all these at once.
yeah.
I move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all. I think this is really a very, very important part of continuing to recognize those who are so important to the welfare of our students and their families and MCS more generally. And we hope to be able to continue to do it. So thank you. With that, we are on to the next item in the agenda. I will get there eventually. We have a position title change. Student activities coordinator will be renamed event management manager. Who wants to talk about that?
That was actually included in your ECA that we just
Okay.
approved.
Okay. So we don't need to deal with those other
No.
two items.
We
Okay.
took that all at once.
Okay. So now we're on to the ever popular 2027 budget presentation.
That is correct. So tonight we have our permission to advertise, which that really means it's our budget presentation to explain to the school board, explain to the public what we expect to spend over the next 18 months. And it covers the calendar year 2027, January through December. It also includes the last 6 months of 2026. So that is, for those of you board members you've all heard this before, but I always like to explain it. This is what we have to do. We have to follow the state guidelines to advertise our expected spending over the next 18 months and our expected revenues in order to establish a tax rate for the local taxpayer. So that's why we follow the process. This particular year, nothing has really changed in terms of the buckets of funding. We still use the education fund, we still use the operation fund, we still use the debt service fund, and we're obviously still using rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is not supported with a tax rate. When we talk about the school buckets of funding, we're not talking about the cafeteria fund. We're not talking about the self-insurance fund. Indirectly, we may talk about bond project funds supported through debt service, but it's not part of the normal. It doesn't have a separate bucket for those particular items. And then federal and state grants are also not included as a separate bucket. Their funding is differently. So real quickly, I always just like to just briefly explain again, what does that mean? What do those buckets of funding mean? The education fund is our largest fund. It's the largest bucket, if you will. It handles all of your direct instruction. If you think of the education fund almost like a school building, everything inside that school building is probably rolling into the education fund for direct instruction. That's your teachers, teacher salaries, their benefits, all their instructional assistants, their school principals, their admin assistants are supported via the education fund. Your custodial folks, your utilities inside that building, they're paid from operation fund, not education. So in any event, the whole education fund bucket, the revenue to support that does not come from local taxes. It all comes from the state of Indiana, supported by your enrollment for your school district. So for this particular year that we're in right now, 2026, we had an actual approved education fund budget of $43.6 million in revenue. This next year, we're going to advertise via the funding form about 44.3, so not much change. And so that is talking about the spending. That's what we're going to spend, about 44.3 million. That does not include what we transfer education to operations. So that's what we expect to spend next year, 44.3 million. That's what we're going to advertise to spend in the education fund, just slightly over this year at 43.6. The next bucket is the operation fund, another large funding bucket. What's in the operation fund? Everything in your administration office is pretty much in the operation fund. We also include human resources, transportation costs, all your utility costs are in operation fund, repairing and supplies for your building, capital items. We have a few activity buses that also go into the operation fund. This is supported by a local tax rate. If you remember, education fund supported by the enrollment through the state basic grant. Operation fund comes from local taxes, local property taxes. So just for a point of reference, I put up there on the screen how much we have been spending or what's been approved. And we basically spend everything we're allowed to spend in that operation fund. And from 2024, just a little over 10.7 million. And we've just gone up to about 12.6 billion is what we expect to spend next year. And you just can't, you just can't normally increase it as high as you want. You just cannot, because it's kind of capped with the state. They set an operational max levy that is basically the amount of property taxes going to go in that particular fund budget. So it's very limited. So you can only grow it this past year 6% is all it can grow. So in any event, that's what the operation fund bucket is. Our next slide will be the debt service bucket. It does exactly that. All the funds that are in that particular bucket pays for your long-term debts of the district. This current year we're in right now, we paid 8.6 million towards our debts. That's all set up through amortization tables, or amortization schedules, just like you have a house payment or a car payment. We do the same thing with our long-term debts. We're advertising spending next year out of that budget about 10.5 million, and that represents some estimated bonds that haven't yet been sold for 2026 yet. So in any event, as I put there in the parentheses, the debt service fund does include our 2025 bonds, where we did take those out last year for about 9.9 million. Okay, we always also need to talk about some things that are embedded in the operational plan. That is what's called the capital project plan. We are still required to do this. Years ago, this was a separate fund. The legislature just didn't, when they created those new buckets of funding, when they eliminated the capital project fund, they did not eliminate the capital project plan, because all these items are now paid through the operation fund. However, we still have to provide this. All this does is just any line items we have for this type of spending, it's paid out of the operation fund. These types of things would be, capital needs. How do we pay for those things now? Right now, we pay them out of our bond projects, because you just don't normally have the funding in your normal operation fund, such as what we're doing right now with our bond projects. We're doing an external door replacement, doing some roof replacement, revising tennis courts and track repavement. We're doing some exterior door replacement at Muncie Central High School from some of those doors that are vintage 1970. Doing some HVAC replacement at the field house, Northside Middle School. They're included in some of these bond projects. So anything of large capital nature, we're going to pay with bond projects. Basically what we do for capital project plan, we basically just say if we have any line items, it's embedded in operation fund. Same idea with the bus replacement plan. We used to have a separate bus replacement fund. They changed all that in 2019. You do not do a separate bus replacement fund anymore, but they didn't clean up the language, so you still have to provide a bus replacement plan. All those line items are inside the operation fund. But anyway, it's always good to report to the school board, what do we have? What do we have in terms of some of those transportation items? We only own 6 white activity buses. It would be a goal for us to replace a couple of those white activity buses in perhaps the next couple of budget years. And we have done that for 4 of those 6 buses. We still have one that's a vintage 2007 and one that's 2010. They're all used. They're white activity buses for short trips. If you remember, we had a 2-year wait time that I would report to the school board that we were really excited to get them across the border before the tariffs kicked in from Canada a couple of years ago or a year ago. But we had purchased 2 brand new in 2025. In 2024, we purchased 2 used ones. And as you see there, these white activity buses are very expensive. They were over $123,000. That's a lift bus that was purchased. That came from a manufacturing plant in Canada. So if we do have a chance to buy 2 more buses, or whenever we might so choose to do that, we might go the used bus route just because those are half the price. So anyway, in terms of big yellow buses, I put that last bullet point in there. Auxilio is our bus company. They are the ones who buy the big yellow buses. We do not. So all the yellow buses are with Auxilio. We only include maintenance and repair costs and fuel for our little white activity buses. Anyway, okay, there's a summary kind of tax rate versus the prior year. I tried to clean this up versus how I had presented that in years past. Basically, we advertise our budget high. We advertise it high because once it's advertised, it can only be cut, not raised. So that's an advertised high amount. But last year you saw we advertised at about $2.62. This year we only advertised $2.03. Our actual rate is about $1.03. So this is just what we have to do in terms of how we advertise the budget and the rate. And we do that by advertising a much lower assessed valuation. There we go. The next slide We advertise our tax rates high because they will be cut by the Department of Local Government Finance. And if you're wondering, why do you do it that way? Why don't you just advertise where you think it is? That's not, you're told to do it this way from the Department of Local Government Finance. You have to advertise it high. No, let them be the ones that cut it, because no matter how good we may think we are, we cannot predict exactly what that tax rate's going to be or the assessed valuation. So the way you protect yourself and your school district, you advertise it high, let the DLGF do the cuts when they work through your budget in November or December. So that's why we have to do this. I know with the impact of Senate Bill 1 coming down the road in a couple of years, there is some changes on how perhaps you have to do that on some of how you advertise something high, but we'll have to get in that in future years, not yet on this particular budget. So anyway, your assessed valuation in a school district, it's like a big pie. You know, if you have less taxpayers, the ones who are left are going to have to pay more, you know, or if you have more taxpayers, those who are there may pay less if you have more and more people paying the taxes in that community. So that's the way we operate on that. The last bullet point I put there just explains about the tax caps you hear so much about, and kind of the way that is now. There's a 1% cap for homeowners, 2% cap for agriculture and other residential, and the 3% cap on all other property. What that basically means is you're protected as a taxpayer, where it just can't grossly go up much more than what that cap is. As more properties hit their cap, they don't pay the full property taxes, it's capped. And what happens to us in the school district, the more properties that hit that cap, we don't get that excess. So it may be good for you, the taxpayer, but for all your taxing districts in your community, they may receive less taxes as the years go by. And of course, the whole SEA 1 thing, which kind of starts to revamp that in future years, not so much in 2027, is really going to upend that a little bit. It won't be quite that clear cut, I don't think, in years to come. So, yes,
Question.
go ahead.
If I may, what process, strategy, calculations does the DLGF go through to determine how and what level they're cutting? And do you have any input?
Well, like when they would start working our budget about usually, November, December, because everything has to be presented and finalized by about October to them. What they do, they just make sure you have enough funds available to you, real funds, to support that budget. That's always the main thing they're looking for. And so then it becomes very easy for them. They know, oh, maybe you've advertised your appropriations too high, or you've advertised your tax rate so high. They know you're only going to get so much money, and they're able to see how much revenue you're really going to get. So they can hone in on it much better. And what we do when we do budget adoption, one of the resolutions you always pass for me is you always pass a resolution that allows me to work with the DLGF to appropriately cut anything that they would see as errors, anything they would see. So I do at least have input where they will work together with me, because and usually that's not too much of an issue. Usually I know what they're pretty much going to do, because I would guess once we get beyond the 27 budget, just the whole impact of SCA 1, that might change how this process goes. But at least for this year, the biggest thing they had told us this year for our 2027 budget process was just making sure we really lower what we put in for our estimated assessed valuation, because they really wanted us to make sure our tax rates were advertised high. And the way they do that, you make sure you advertise an assessed valuation of maybe 70% or 85%. So we advertised it at about 70% of the previous year, which, granted, we're probably not going to lose 30% of our assessed valuation in the district, but they are coaching us to do it that way, which makes no sense, but that's the process we do. The budget timetable, what we're doing tonight is August 11th, permission to advertise. The public hearing will be in 2 weeks at our next board meeting. September 8th is what we call budget adoption. That's called the state form 4. That's when, once we adopt that budget, then all of you have to sign that form, and I have to upload it pretty much the next day or so into the state process. There's just a slide there on property taxes, on how much property taxes we really expect to really receive, even though we're advertising a levy that is very high. And when we say levy, that means your local property taxes. We're advertising about 32.7 million. The actual levy this year was about 23.8, but you subtract that even further because you have a tax cap this year of a little over 10.5 million. We're really only collecting a little over $12 million this year, and this is very consistent in years past. Our levy is always, or I'm sorry, our tax cap has usually been always over 10 million over the last few years. So we're only collecting, that's why I put it as a percentage, only about 53% of whatever the overall gross levy is. And that's because, as we said, we have a lot of taxpayers, property tax owners in the community that have already hit their cap. So we're not going to collect that. All the factories around us are in the TIF district, so we're not tax increment financing district, but we don't share in those. That's just the way that works. So anyway, as part of the budget process, we grew that up. The estimated tax cap was about 11.6 million. Where did I get that number? I didn't throw darts on the wall. Chuck didn't we didn't look at a magic 8-ball or anything. We got that number from Baker Tilly. They provide our financial consulting, and they use their best estimate, and that's what they gave us when they helped provide our information that we took to the DUAB board back in the month of May. And that was what they did for that. As we move on, just some of these assumptions that we build in to the budget process on the next slide there. We expect our state basic grant basically to be totally flat. $48 million is 48.1 is what we expect to get in 2027. The calendar year revenue, maybe a little over 50 million. Calendar year education fund expenses about 51.5. That includes the 7.2 million to transfer to operation, and that's paying this new smaller $1.1 million payback of the state loan. Because obviously up until just a few weeks ago, that one particular bullet point would have said, oh, we're going to be paying back 2.2 million of the state loan, but we got that knocked down with the DUAB board because we extended the loan term 2 more years, which lowered that payment that we make back to the state. So that helps our cash flow. So if obviously, even though we're making that state loan payment of about 1.1 million, if it wasn't for that, we'd be positive cash flow. Still, however, we expect a cash balance December 2027, a little over $12.5 million. How did we do that? Well, that's still based on where we think enrollment's going to go. Dr. Reynolds and I, we talk about that at the beginning of the budget process because that's where your revenue comes from, is where do you think enrollment's going to go? That is always, that's always a variable. For every year I've done this, and this is 27 years of budgets I've done this, it's always a big variable. Where do you think enrollment's going to go? And this was our best estimate, being down maybe about 33 students, and we'll just see how that goes. The next couple slides, I just give you some assumptions on the operation fund. You also may have some of that at your pie chart at your desk. That the whole operation fund is obviously looks a lot better than 2 years ago when the operation fund, we were paying to the SSC outside contractor for facilities and maintenance. That by itself was $330,000 a month. So that was right about 4.1 million we were paying them. So we brought them in-house. So 2027 is full 12 months of having that in-house. So we saved 1.2 million of cash flow in the operation fund. Unfortunately, it's like we need to come up with that $1.2 million savings almost every year because your spending keeps going up. Your need for utility costs go up. Things don't ever go down. So anyway, that's the operation fund, as you can see.
So let me ask this question. So we have an advertised spending of 12.6, which is what we're allowed to advertise.
Yeah, that's what we advertise to spend.
But doesn't operations typically cost more than that?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What makes,
Significantly more. right?
yes, it does. It usually about 13.9 to 14 million of actual operational spending. Yes, it does.
So, and just for those folks keeping score at home, uh, that's been about where we've managed to keep it for the last 6 or 7 years through lots of moving around.
That's correct.
And that's with pricing and inflation running 3 to 4%.
Yep.
Fuel being,
Mhm.
on transportation and auxilio.
Right.
Utilities. So I just want to make sure that folks understand, even though we have consistently advertised within what the law permits at a certain number, that's not real.
That is correct.
It is what we call as lawyers a legal fiction.
Yes.
And so when we talk about moving the 15% to 7.2 million
Yep.
From the education fund to cover, that's where that deficit gets covered.
Yeah, we need every bit of that transfer as revenue, because the revenue that goes into your operation fund budget is property taxes and that transfer and the money we earn on interest.
Correct.
That helps support everything in that operation fund bucket. So,
And so the property tax grant over the next 2 to 3 years will continue to shrink absent some change.
that is correct. That's our major concern from the impacts of SEA 1.
So my point being ultimately that I want to stop saying that operations is funded by property tax, because it's not.
Right.
It's funded in part it's supported by property tax. It is not
Yep.
funded by property tax. It is funded at this point, majority by the education fund, which is the state basic grant, which comes from a different pot entirely and from different sorts of funds, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
And everybody else who's watching at home.
Yes.
Okay.
That is very, very accurate, what you have said. So basically the next slide, what we're going to advertise is basically up there on the screen. Education fund will advertise spending a little over 44.296 million, 44.2 million. Debt service about 10.7 million. Operation fund 12.5 million, just under 12.6. That is a slight increase. Rainy day fund, we're not advertising as much spending. I'll tell you a little bit of our strategy on that. We advertise spending in rainy day to help offset those operational spending, like you just said. What we're trying to plan to do this year is perhaps not spend as much of rainy day fund as we're allowed to spend, which will still give us next year what we expect to spend to help support operation fund of still a little over almost 2 million perhaps at a rainy day, 1.8 million. So that's why that looks a little lower than last year or the year we're in now. Total budget, we're asking to spend about 68.2 million. There I put as the bullet point, your rainy day fund was 3.1 million here at the end of June. How do we get money in rainy day? Well, we transfer money into rainy day from usually the education fund at the end of the year. So that's why it's always important to try to build a surplus in education fund, because we're trying to slide as much as we can over into rainy day. There's that bullet point again, the operation fund, the max levy. What that means, I was allowed to grow it 6%, and that comes from the state. It's not specific to Muncie. Probably the last 4 or 5 years, always the growth factor from the state of Indiana on your operation fund was right at 4%. This year it's been 6%. So everyone was allowed to grow at 6%. The next slide, I just wanted to put this in. I call it my budget threats. It's not like Ohio's invading or anything here but it's like these are threats that seem very real to myself and Dr. Reynolds as we were putting this together, going through this. We always talk about enrollment. We had 50 students that went down, 50 students less at the February count. That's where is in your enrollment going? You take the enrollment count twice a year, October and February. You're always a little bit on pins and needles of seeing how that's going to go. We know the second bullet point there, the special ed co-op, which has worked for, 25 or 30 plus years. It's been in place here at Muncie. That's basically dissolving at the end of next next June as of July 1st. A lot of all the sending schools are going to break out on their own. So what they do, they have to pay us money. We send them the bill for their share of the current special ed co-op, and those line items are in the education fund. So then that revenue that they pay for that goes into the education fund bucket, which will still go in all of 2027, because we'll get their revenue in January of 27 and in July and August of 27, where we'll notice the impact of that revenue cut would be in 2028. So just wanted to mention that. We had the third bullet point was nursing services. We've really lived really well on nursing services for the last 5 years, really since the pandemic. Meridian Health, one of our partners, was able to fund that through some of their federal grants or monies they received from the federal government. And they told us they just could no longer do that anymore. We used to pay that ourselves. We used to pay that clear back when I first came on board in 2018 and 19. We had nurses, we had an outsourced company out of Indianapolis to do all that. So we had to pivot and change, kind of build that into some of our expenditures in those line items in the education fund. Dr. Bell has been working diligently to help provide some grant restructuring to absorb some of those costs. So maybe it will not be as big a hit as that, as 400,000, but that is a potential item.
That comes out of the education fund.
Yeah, that's paid out of education fund.
And take it back, we used to do this in-house, right?
We did. We used to do this in-house.
Have we looked to see what it would cost to go back to that, or is that?
We have not. We have not, but nothing ever goes down.
No.
So I just know that what we were paying in 2018 or 19 to the previous company would not be what we would have to pay today. It just would not be. A couple other bullet points I listed there as potential threats. It's like we know we could have some new charter schools, new micro schools in our district, perhaps in the next school year. Maybe we know that can happen. The SEA1 impact, we've talked about that a lot. It really starts ramping up in 28. Obviously, it's a big legislative sessions coming up this next November to see how that goes. There's a lot of proposals being floated on different things, so who knows what direction that may end up going. We know from what some of our estimates have been, our Baker Tilly consultants have told us that could be a $2 to $5 billion loss in operation fund property taxes in some of those future years. Obviously, decline in cash balance. Those are the results of some of those things. So not that I'm trying to be a real downer on this, but I wanted you to know. I just think we all need to know.
And so is there any noise in and among legislators understanding the drastic nature of the impact on schools, particularly in 28 and then 29 and then going out thereafter? We were looking at 40 districts, is my understanding, have referenda scheduled at this point for November of 2026.
Yes.
And that number would potentially go up in 28. Has there been, again, any recognition of a need to revisit that legislation? I mean, they all sort of talk about it, but is anybody serious at this point?
I haven't heard anything serious that could happen, but I think we all realize you just never know. I mean, there's obviously new, the Business Manager Association, you have your Superintendent Association. We've all heard a lot of different things, but no one is for certain.
Didn't the district just announce within the last week that they're going to cut off bus service?
We did see that. See that. That was one particular school district's approach that I can't remember which one that was. You sent that to me. Lowell, Northern Indiana, that they might, they said if they didn't pass a referendum, they would have to do some drastic measures. They were going to cut sports. They were going to cut bus service, K-8 sports. I think you could see extraordinary measures by districts that they never would have thought of before. And we all would prefer not to do that here at Muncie Schools.
Right. I think everybody would prefer not to do it. When you talk about the coaching you received from DLGF to advertise at 70% of assessed value, what's the motivation there? To the best of your knowledge.
To make your tax rate artificially high. Because if you try to advertise, if I would try to advertise our budget at what our assessed value was, a little over 2 billion, and then maybe that rate's not high enough and you're leaving money on the table. You're not going to get as much, you're already maybe not getting as much property taxes you would like, but you're definitely not going to get as much property taxes if you don't have your rate as high as you possibly could. So that's the one way that they're protecting the district, by advertising it artificially high. Use a lower assessed valuation.
Okay.
I know it's fuzzy math.
No, I
But
understand.
it's just,
Well, I've never frankly understood why we can't, within the operations fund, be honest with everybody involved, what it actually costs to operate.
Right.
As opposed to setting these artificial caps, which we all know is not what it takes to operate districts around the state. I mean, I don't think there's anybody operating within what the state says is their cap. You know of anybody?
I can't give any names off the top of my head. I don't know. I do know some districts are affected way differently on the property tax caps than we are. I mean, there are some districts not impacted hardly at all. And there's some like us that we're in the top 6 districts in the state of tax cap loss. I think it's Beech Grove they're number 1 in the state. They don't get a dime of property tax money in their operation. So.
Well, we're headed there.
Yep.
What is that?
Just the composition of their taxpayers in their district, where it's mostly, I believe, residential in that particular area. And they,
Businesses, industry.
yeah,
all residential.
I believe
They've
so.
reached the max. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything,
So that was the threat. I know that's a real fun topic. You've done really well. I mean, the questions, if you had any questions, I've tried to explain some of these things along the way. I've mentioned the state loan, the $12 million state loan. We got that extended. We mentioned that. What's my largest variables? The last bullet point there, enrollment projections, the tax cap impact. Those are always my biggest concerns. Employee headcount. I mean, we're actually, when we talk about employee headcount for our district, we're significantly lower. I don't put up a graph for that, but we're lower than we were projected at this time last year in August. We're probably down at least 12 teaching positions from last year. And we're also down some support staff positions because of some intentional reduction in certain areas. So we're trying to do the things you need to do in your playbook. So the final thing I would ask you, we just look for a motion to approve the advertisement if you didn't have any other questions, and that would, we'll come back again in 2 weeks for the budget public hearing, and then come back in September for the budget adoption.
Move approval.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions? If there are none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Comment.
yes.
I appreciate the explanation. I hope for those who listen, and I think we should encourage them to ask questions, anybody out there, because it's a big deal. And when we talked about compensation, this was exactly the basis that we had to look at and say, we know these risks are out there, and they are real. And I just applaud you and Chuck and the administration for navigating us through as you have so far, because I think you've done great. So thank you.
We're constantly playing whack-a-mole. I mean, certain things pop up and it's just the levers you have to push and pull. And it just seems like as soon as you think you've solved something else pops up. And that's truly been what we faced this year. So no, I appreciate your comments. I really do. And no one worries more about the funding than me.
Well, and I would just say, I appreciate your explanations. I have then explained it to other people in the community. I've had a lot of people asking me questions now. So I can say, these buckets, that's super helpful. So
Yep.
thank you for making sure that we are educated.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay. We will move on to public hearing on the Geo project. Mr. Jerome.
Thank you. I know you wanted me to talk some more. Well, what we're doing here tonight, we introduced at the previous board meeting and some of the meetings before that, we talked about a potential bond project that we were proposing to do. What we're going to do tonight is really called the project hearing. The first thing, if that's okay, I'd like to go ahead and at least summarize what this projected particular project was. This was a particular bond project that we had put together with our financial consultants, as well as just some current needs we have in the district. Nothing real fancy, nothing real sexy here. These were things that related to some items for some paving projects in the district, some roofing projects in the district, and potentially we're trying to explore as much LED replacements as we can, if we could, at Muncie Central. That is our largest consumer of electricity, is Muncie Central High School. It's amazing how far $6.8 million doesn't stretch real far. That only works to about $5.2 million of actual hard costs of actual project. We're trying to just continually improve the infrastructure in Muncie schools, and this would allow us to do it. Dr. Reynolds and I did our kind of scope review with our architects a week ago, and where we sorted through that big laundry list of things we wanted to fit. It doesn't fit real well, so we're trying to reduce it down. So we want to get as big a bang for our buck as we can, but right now that's our focus that we would explain to you and to the public. We would like to make improvements in roofing, some roofing projects and some pavement projects throughout. Some of our schools have some real needs there for improvement. And we're going to try to fit as much as we can in that. So what we're doing tonight, we've now explained what we'd like to spend it on. We would also, that helps support the need for the project. And in terms of the cost and the timing, it's about $6.8 million is the total. Our bond financial consultants at Baker Tilly have explained to me that this would kind of be a short payback, probably no more than 5-year term. And if you remember some of our previous debt projects that we have done in the last 4 years, those were like really short paybacks as well. Those were 1 or 2 year payback terms. So we're trying to have as quick a turnaround as we possibly can to stay within certain debt service rate and certain debt service guidelines. So we're trying to keep our managing our debt. So that would be our expected financial impact. So at this point, I think I'm ready to
Turn it over to me.
turn it over to you.
Okay, so we will now open the public hearing on this Geo bond proposal. Mr. Jerome has spoken to the project and financial impact. If anyone would like to speak, please limit your comments to the proposed project and the financing as outlined by Mr. Jerome. Anybody wish to be heard on the Geo bond project?
Yes, it would be a GEO bond project,
Yes.
general obligation bond.
Anybody wish to be heard on the Geo bond project? Anyone wish to be heard? Final call. Anyone wish to be heard? Okay, so we will go ahead and close the public hearing on the bond project. And this resolution, Mr. Jerome, could you summarize it for us, please?
Yes, we will actually have 3 different resolutions that we will present in front of the school board tonight for consideration. One is considered we have Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. Exhibit A reflects the project in total. Exhibit B is the maximum financing. And we also, Exhibit C is the reimbursement resolution, which means if we're spending any money ahead of selling the bonds, we're allowed to reimburse ourselves if we incur any costs ahead of time that we could reimburse from the bond proceeds when we actually would sell those. The expected timeline for this particular financing arrangement would be a timeline within, we would expect to sell these bonds within these next 6 months or so of 2026. So this would be current. The architects do not expect a long, difficult time to spec and scope this project out. So therefore, when would this happen? It would happen in 2027 to try to get it ready for the next school year. And if we do roofing, we would hope that we get things wrapped up on the roof where we don't have rain that comes through. So in any event,
So
that's a
we
brief
have,
summary. That's a brief summary of Exhibit A, B, and C.
so we have a project resolution as Exhibit A. We have Exhibit B, the preliminary bond resolution, Exhibit C, the declaration of official intent to reimburse expenditures. Any questions concerning those three necessary resolutions? If there are no questions, I would.
Can you take them in total? Or?
I'm going to take them in total.
Yeah.
If I have no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve Exhibits A, B, and C.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye. Pose same sign. Okay, we'll show those passing. Mr. Jerome, is there anything further that we need on this matter?
There is not.
Okay, so I did note that in your budget presentation, we had utilities at 2.7 million. And it's my understanding that these projects are designed, at least in part, to at least control or reduce that number. Is that a fair statement?
We are, as Dr. Reynolds and I, when we met with the architect, we would certainly like to put a dent in some of those utility costs at some of our buildings, yes.
Okay.
They never go down.
I think it's also important to overemphasize, these are brand new buildings. It's just maintaining what we have.
Yeah.
Our assets currently.
Brad, you were in Jay County schools in 1978, weren't you? 77, 78?
Yes, I was. I was a high school student. I was a junior in high school.
So I remember in Union County schools, we had to sit in the dark and all of us had to wear extra clothes. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, I remember the great coal shortages of 1978 and 9, where we made the school board, who my father was on, they made these extraordinary decisions. Let's just remove every other light. I'm not sure it did much, except it made it darker for us as students. But
I was in sixth grade that year and they moved us all, like the fourth, fifth, and sixth, into one room and they heated only that room. And I tell people that's why I can't do like sixth grade math.
okay. Well, there were some extraordinary measures that happened in the 70s. I'm not sure they were all good, but it was the coal shortage was one.
Yeah. Well, I'm just always
That's a
amused.
good memory. That's a good memory.
I remember basketball games that were usually Saturday night, Friday night were moved to the day. Sectional was played during the day.
Football games were played on Saturday afternoon, so you didn't have to use lights on Friday night. Those things happen too.
Yeah, maybe we'll end up back there. Okay, that'll be fun. Any board dialogue?
Congratulations to Watasha for being reappointed.
Yes, yay. Yay. Well, yeah, the compass. Where's the compass from?
So it was really the kind of the theme and the mantra for our administrators at our administrative retreat that we had. You start off on one journey kind of with an expectation of how this journey is going to go, and kind of like Lewis and Clark, you're going to run into some mountains you didn't quite anticipate running into. So regardless of the road that lies ahead, the compass is always true north. So keep placing learners first as your true north, and we'll work our way through any mountains we arrive at together.
I'm trying to, does it
Figure out
work?
how to get home.
Yeah.
Inspired by pushing around the big pump.
Well, I started really this in the spring. I started reading the book and really started my wheels turning.
Is it the guy that's from Indiana?
Well, no, this book was given to me by my pastor,
Oh, okay.
and it's Todd Bolsinger's Canoeing the Mountains, and it's really about leading a church through transformation. Really, what kind of spurned those thoughts.
Yeah.
Also, we wanna give, congratulations now, just now, her.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Yes.
So we would honor.
Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe a little teary-eyed, but I really.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Justin on being Citizen of the Month. Any media inquiries, Andy? Okay. Oh, yes. We have the Alumni Educators Reception, and newly hired MCS teachers and teachers who are MCS alumni will be honored at a reception at the football game, and then acknowledged during the halftime of the Muncie Central versus Delta game. And that is Friday, Friday, August 21st of 2026. 6 o'clock is the reception. 7 o'clock is game time. Again, that's August 21st, Muncie versus Delta. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone.
Invited that Pastor Hill came last year and had fun. I think it was good. Okay, he was out a while. He was there a while.
What, Tasha, you must have just popped in.
We also would like to fill the stadium for our first home game.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, I thought you said build a stadium. We just built one.
And a game against Delta is always a great.
Yeah. 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 Thank you all. Should we adjourn? Have a motion? Okay. Move and second. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed, same sign. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you.